Hey everyone, welcome back to another CAD FAQ. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create different model viewports on one page. Now this is useful if you have different drawings that you'd like to include in one page, as well as different drawings of a different scale, because with each model viewport you can change the scale of that particular model viewport. This is particularly useful if you have a look at this drawing right here, where I have these drawings as 1:20, and these two drawings over here, which is scale 1:5. Now, I'm going to show you how to first do different model viewports, and I'm going to show you how to make it so that your model viewport is in the shape of a circle. I know that a lot of places like you to do detailed drawings in a circle, which is also a case of where you would change the scale of your drawing, which would be different to the other scales of your other drawings. So that is why I've chosen the circle today to show you how to do that. First things first, you want to make sure that you have your model of whatever it is that you're drawing, and that you have your details. I see there the hatch has gone a bit haywire. You want to have your details that are actually basically drawn 1:1. So for example, the screw head is 2 centimeters across. That is why in my drawing it is 20 mils. So basically like a normal CAD drawing, but it's incredibly tiny. That is why I've put a box around it so that I can see where they are if I ever lose them. For example, my drawing is this messy, so I can see where they are very easily. So once you've got your drawings there, we're going to go out and find a page, and remember setting up the page using the styles from last time. So basically make sure you've watched that video if you don't completely understand how to set up a page. Otherwise, pause this video, go find that video and watch it, because you need those skills to continue with this video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this model viewport first of all. I'm just going to make sure that my page is the size that I want it to be. Alrighty, everything here seems in order. Okay, so I have a blank page now with no model viewports at all. Now, quick thing that I'm going to do now is just copy in a title block, just so that we can have some sort of reference. I'm just selecting that with the green selection tool, Control C, going back to my layout, Control V. Just going to ever so slightly line it up there, and then offset this by 10, just to give me a border to work with. Okay, now to make a new model viewport, first things first is you type M and V and then enter. Now then you basically just draw any size shape that you want. You can always change it later, and there you go, there's your model viewport. Now this one I am going to make my 1:20 drawing, so I'm going to make it about that big. That should be big enough. Again, double click inside your model viewport to be able to move around in it, and I'm going to use this drawing, and I'm going to go change the scale down here to 1:20. Okay, so I made my viewport a little bit small, but that's okay, we can change it later. I don't want to move this anymore, so I'm going to lock that to make sure that I don't accidentally scroll and change the scale. And then I'm going to double click outside of it to change back to paper space. I'm going to select it here, deselect my ortho mode, which means that I can move it in any direction. And I'm just going to move it down like that. Okay, that's a little bit much. I'm going to move it slightly up, if it'll let me. Snaps. I can turn them off and then basically move it anywhere I want. Okay, so now I've got that. Now you're going to be wondering, when it prints, it's going to print with a whole bunch of blocks, since I am going to have about 3 other things on this page. This is where your layer properties come in handy. So I'm going to go to my layer properties and find my layer 1, wherever it is. I think it's this one that I'm using actually. Oh no, my mistake, it's this one. And I'm going to turn it off to print. So again, in my last video, or the first video actually, I showed you how to work with layer properties, and by doing this, it's not going to print that actual block, which means I won't have a whole bunch of misaligned blocks on my page. Now the reason I haven't turned it off here is because I still want to see it. As you can see now, it's basically gone, and therefore I can't move it around if I need to. So I want to make sure I keep that on in order to see what I'm working with. The great thing about a model viewport is that it's an actual object, so I can actually go here, CO, enter, and I can copy it. And therefore I can place an identical one next to it, which will be the same scale of the same object. Now I don't necessarily want the same object, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the box to go into my model space, deselect the lock button so I can move it around, and I want to move it to the next model basically. Again, once I'm happy with the scale and I'm happy where it is, I lock it just to avoid any mishaps, and double click out of it to get out of my model space and back into my paper space. Now, as you can see here, I've already shown where the circles for the details need to be. Let me just fix this quickly. Quick tip. If your drawing starts looking like this instead of like that, all you have to do is basically go into your model space or double click in here, type REGEN for regen and enter, and it'll fix it right up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my circle. For the purpose of this, I haven't got a dot dash circle like you're meant to have. I've just got a normal circle, and I'm going to make it about 45 across. Okay, so there's my circle. Now to create the viewport inside the circle, I'm going to type MV for model viewport, enter, and then I'm going to type O for object. This allows me to select any object that I've drawn and turn that into a viewport. So if you've drawn a rectangle or a square or a hexagon or a triangle, you can make any of those your viewport if you just type MV, enter, O, enter. So again, I'm making the circle my viewport for my details, and I'm going to just select it then. And there you go, there's your viewport. So if I double click inside it, works just like a normal viewport. The only difference is this one is a circle. Now I'm going to basically scroll to where the detail is that I want, and I'm going to change the scale to 1:5 because that is a requirement at the moment. So as you can see, I made the circle a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do then is quickly just lock the drawing so it doesn't go anywhere by mistake. And I'm going to click outside of the circle, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So again, it works just like a normal object where you can move it around. So if I want it in the corner here, let me make it a little bit smaller. Just selecting it again and selecting one of the nodes and making it smaller. So I'm going to just move this inside the circle itself. So again, double click inside your viewport, unlock it so you can move it, and I'm going to move it just to there. I can probably fit some notes in there or something like that. Alright, locking it again just to make sure I don't do anything by mistake. And there you go. That is how you create different viewports on the same page. Remember, if you don't want these blocks to print, again, you go to your layer properties, find which layer it is, and make sure that print is off. Which then, and I'll show you what happens when you go to plot, export, PDF, we'll call this one test3, again save it to my messy desktop, save it. Once it's shown that the plot was successful, we go find it again, and there we go. Any line that I created, and you can actually see, and this is again the importance of using different line names for your different line styles, is that I use the same line for this as I did for the border, and it doesn't plot that. But the borders, which is what we mainly focused on, aren't there. So have a separate line weight for your, or line style, line plot style for your borders, because then you can still see them and move them around. And then remember to just make your main border around if that is one of your requirements. Alright, so going back to our drawing, now that this is a different scale, our dimensions will be correct according to this scale. So I remember I told you guys in the other drawing, if I can just go find that one quickly, this screw over here was, if we just change it quickly to, oopsie, 1 is not 1 is to 20, just change it quickly to 1 is to 5. I told you guys earlier that that screw was 2 centimeters across. So if we do our dimensions and we check it, there we go, 20 mils, 22 centimeters across. So as you can see there, everything is correct according to that model viewport, whereas this one, where it's 1 is to 20, measures correctly in its scale. So there you guys go. I hope that was very helpful for you. Make sure to leave a like if it was helpful and comment for any tips or tricks that you want to know. That's all for now. Stay tuned for my next videos and have a good one.